let's start with the individual who has no retirement savings. Well, you have work to do. And you obviously have now made that realization and you want to catch up. So obviously, if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, time is no longer your friend like it used to be. In your 20s, when you're saving for retirement, time is your friend. Time is going to allow you to compound your money a lot more. Time is going to allow you to grow your money, and your money be mostly growth and not as much contributions. But when you haven't had anything compounding already, and you haven't gotten that head start and that good push towards building your financial nest egg, then you have a lot of work that you'll have to do. And we're going to have to rely heavily on your contributions. It's going to be a lot more about your intentionality at this point than it would be about your ability to make great returns. Yes, returns are going to matter and returns are going to be useful and helpful. But when you look up when you retire, the likelihood is that your contributions are going to far outweigh, or maybe slightly, but they will outweigh your growth portion of your portfolio, simply because you started late and your money didn't have as much time to grow, and you had to throw a lot of contributions at those retirement accounts in order to get to where you wanted to get to. And when you have no retirement savings, that means to this point you have been out of financial balance. You have been spending most of what you made, and maybe you've been giving a lot too, but you have not been investing for the future. You've been doing a lot of the other two, and likely just the one, likely just spending. That is most people. Likely you have been spending most of what you make. So therefore, what happens now is you are forced, and this is why it's so important to maintain financial balance, because at this point, what will happen is you will be forced out of financial balance again, but to the other side. Like, you've put so much weight on this one side of your financial life, this spending, spending, spending. Now you have to balance it out with the weight on the other side of saving, investing, 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 right? And so this is not ideal, obviously, but it's going to need to be done. So most extra dollars that you have need to be saved or invested. Typically, we want it to be invested because we need your money to be growing. And you don't need to be spending extra money on things that are not necessary if you have no retirement savings. You need as many dollar bills working for you as possible. That way you can build a nest egg pretty quickly, if at all possible. So you need all your dollar bills working for you. And one way that you can do this, not even with your money, we talked earlier, you do need to be getting that match. You need to be getting the employer match if you have one available to you, because we need as many dollars as we can pushing forward. And that's going to allow us to use other people's money, right? They are making the contributions. They are matching your contributions. And this will allow you to just pile up dollar bills in those accounts. So it's really, really important. And if you turn this down, it can make a really, really big difference, especially if your employer retirement account is the primary way that you go about saving for retirement. So just make sure that you're taking advantage of that if it is offered to you. Otherwise, you can go down the list of how we want to go about investing. We'll talk about that later in this video as well. And then if you have no retirement savings, you want to make sure that you are maximizing your income. You want to make sure that every dollar of your income is put in the correct place. You want to make sure that that budget is tight. You want to make sure that you have everything going where it needs to go, doing what it's supposed to do. You can go at this point and ask for a raise if you think you deserve it, right? Try to get as much income in the house as you can. Move jobs if you're underpaid or underappreciated or have better benefits elsewhere. Maybe you can get a real nice match elsewhere. That's not the only reason to move a job, but that can be a really strong force when you don't have any retirement savings. And then use your income on what it needs to be used for, not so much on wants. We really want to make this budget really, really tight to the point where every extra dollar that we have is really being pushed at the investing and getting as many dollar bills working for us as possible. And then in concordance with yesterday's video, what we also have is we need to make sure we get our home paid off. And this needs to be done, obviously, concurrent with our investing. And since you don't have as much time to compound your money, this becomes a big deal. And I talked about this a bit yesterday. Decreasing your expenses can be an easier way to maximize your retirement than creating the income that you need to create, because sometimes it's just you can get rid of those big expenses in a quicker way. Therefore, you don't need as much income to retire on. You need less income because you have to cover less expenses. And so paying off the house will allow you to do that. And this is just a huge way in which you can create some form of financial freedom in your life and some form of decreasing your expenses to a point where you maybe can retire earlier than you thought you would be able to, given that you started so late. And so once you do this, once you do pay off your home, you can invest buck wild with every dollar that you have. You can invest. And that's going to be the strongest part. Like I said, it's going to get you a little out of financial balance on the back end, but you were financially unbalanced on the front end of your financial life. So it's okay to balance yourself out by doing a lot of investing on the back end. And that's what we want you to do to make sure you get to a point where you have an adequate amount of retirement savings. Because if you don't, then it's going to be a lot of just working and grinding ahead of you. And we want as little of that as possible. Now, something I do want to specifically speak to in this video are the actual catch-up contributions of retirement accounts. So we want to invest in all available accounts we can, right? If we're really pushing hard on investing, we want to invest in all the things that we can invest in and max them out as a part of the financial action plan, because we know that the 8th part of the financial action plan is to max everything out. So once we pay the home off, we are at that point we can max everything out. And so we want to make sure we're taking advantage of retirement accounts. So these tax advantaged accounts like IRAs, 401ks, and the catch-up contributions that come along with those. So for the year 2020, IRAs, Roth and traditional, have a $1,000 catch-up contribution. So you can put an extra $1,000 in the IRA for the year if you are the age 50 or above. And then for the 401k or 403bs, if you're over 50, you can do an extra $6,500 on the 401k. And this is really useful because you can get more tax advantages on more of your money before having to move to other investment vehicles. But once we get those types of things maxed out, then we can go to our taxable brokerage accounts and put as much money as you want in this, right? There is no contribution limit. So we can really feed those taxable brokerage accounts just knowing that it is taxable money, even if it's at the capital gains tax rate. And then you can also take advantage of things like your HSAs, the triple tax advantage HSA, where you get the tax deduction on the front end, you get tax-free growth and tax-free withdrawals for medical expenses on the back end. And the way this is really useful at this point is because it's likely that your health is not getting any better and that you can be in a place where you need to cover health expenses moving forward. Well, the triple tax advantage of the HSA will allow you to do that, and that can be a part of your investing plan as well. At this point, if you don't have any debt, you have your emergency fund set, we're taking every extra dollar and we're just throwing it at investing, then you should have a lot of money to invest over the course of a year. So we want to know what the options are, what our ability to save is, and we want to do it with all our might, given that you have no retirement savings.